Hi, everybody. My name is Rebecca, and I am a school psychologist working in the state of Connecticut. I'm here tonight with Dr. Amy Glazer, who is going to tell us a little bit about herself and about her recent article in the Communique. Hi, Amy.
Hi, Rebecca. Thank you so much for having me. I am a full-time school psychologist, actually also in the state of Connecticut, and I've been working full-time as a school psychologist for about 12 years now. Went to grad school in Connecticut as well, and I am currently living in New York, so I'm a New Yorker. I've been working at an elementary school for the past 12 years now, and the focus of my article in this issue of Communique is looking at gender diversity and gender awareness at the elementary school level, which was new for my district at the time. This started about 2 years ago. It was new for my district and my school building at the time, and I had to sort of jump in head first with this and felt that it would be an important story to share with the greater school site community.
Definitely an important topic. So how did you get interested in the idea? How did the idea first form? And then what were some of the challenges to bringing this to your school?
Sure, absolutely. When I was in grad school, back in the early 2000s, we really took some multicultural courses, but we didn't spend too much time talking about gender related issues in young children. And it seems as though over the last several years, this is becoming a more important focus for mental health practitioners. And we see it a lot more in the media as well. Yet it had not been on my radar, and I know that there were mental health practitioners and school psychologists in the middle school and the high school level within my district who have been doing some great work in the area of gender awareness, gender diversity, and transgender related issues. Yet we had not begun to do any awareness or work with gender in the elementary schools. And about 2 years ago, I had a student enroll in my elementary school in kindergarten, and I had a parent from this student come to me and indicate that her child was gender nonconforming, and she was looking to look at what the school district's policy was, look at the education, professional development, and awareness of the staff, as well as myself, and be able to open the lines of communication and share some resources with us, including some picture books and some articles. And this led me down sort of a rabbit hole in terms of figuring out, where do I start as a mental health practitioner looking at this area that's sort of new for me as a school psychologist working in elementary school. Yet I know that there's so much out there that's already been done and that schools have been working on. So I began working with my clinical supervisor in the district, as well as my principals in the administration, to attend workshops. I went to a great workshop with Dr. Savage, which was right here in the state of Connecticut, seeking out resources and working very closely with this parent and the faculty in my building in order to help share resources and information in order to best meet the needs of not only this child, but any possible other children that might have been demonstrating any gender diversity, gender nonconforming behaviors, or anything else. We wanted to make sure we were providing the most welcoming school environment that we could.
Absolutely.
Now, challenges that we faced along the way were various, and some of these challenges included looking at the current laws regarding children who are either transgender or gender nonconforming. Thinking about some of those regulations with our school board attorney in terms of what we do for bathrooming, for informing parents of information that we feel is relevant at school, we in being sensitive to not out the child in any way. How do we find that balance with some of those really key topics? I think according to the parent, our timeline didn't exactly match the timeline that they had, and would have liked to see decisions being made quicker. Although we always know we try to meet the needs of our children the best way we can, but don't want to rush into any quick decisions without really looking at all the information. I know that the parent was looking for a quicker timeline to receive answers, so she helped put us in touch with a educational consultant who works right here in Connecticut, actually in Hartford, and she's working with a non-for-profit group. And she's the managing director, and her specialty is really educational consultation and education. Reform and working with school districts on how to best support the needs of all their learners, including any learners that are on the LGBTQ spectrum. And the parent connected us with this managing director, and she actually served as a great consultant for us. She was in some of my personal meetings regarding this specific student with the parent, but then the district felt that she had so much to offer. They brought her back for 2 subsequent professional development days, one with the mental health staff and then one with the greater high school community, in order to best support some of our learners up at the higher levels as well. So we really found that she helped to get us through some of our bigger challenges by providing us with relevant information about state statutes, past precedents, and best practices for children. In the meantime, I was looking through all the position statements, the NASP position statement, APA position statements, and any additional research that we could find in order to help support the student in the day-to-day within the school building, and helping to inform the staff of how they can be culturally competent in meeting the needs of not only the student but all of our learners.
Wow. It sounds like you had a nice collaboration of allies between the parents and this outside professional and your admin team that welcomed her back to encourage more professional development and encourage this planning and conversation. What do you feel were the biggest challenges and barriers to starting to getting your timeline moving, and how did you overcome those?
I think that starting this process in an elementary school, when we had not really been considering these concepts and ideas prior, really it was just slow to start. And the parent came to us and wanted some quick decisions on bathrooming and you know, where we stand on privacy of the student and not outing the student with parents and communication. And we were slow to start, and I think one of the barriers is just being able to have the full participation of the district. We had the building-based principals involved, my clinical supervisor, we had the director of pupil services in Title IX, we had consulted with the board attorneys, and all of those steps are processes that take some time. And I think we had to allow for that time. And while that was taking place, I felt that my role as a mental health specialist in the building would be to help teach the faculty, the teachers, the paraprofessionals, the administration about gender diversity and some gender awareness concepts in terms of terminology, culturally competent practice, as well as what our professional and ethical responsibilities are to students. So all of that was taking place while we were trying to get some more concrete answers for the family and some of those bigger challenges. Certainly surrounding yourself with allies is great, and I put myself in a position of being a liaison between the family and the school district, going back and forth to get information, to share information, and certainly sought the consult of the educational specialists at the state to provide us with any information that we could to help in the interim and make decisions based on best practice, but also not trying to rush this process and allowing a piece of that to play out and giving it some time to make some good, solid decisions before we were able to get back to the parent or change any bathrooming practices for the child.
So in those challenges, what approach? It sounds like there were lots of steps in getting your community on board and maybe some faculty, adults in the building about these specific challenges like bathroom practices or communicating with everybody about these issues. What approach did you take to explaining that model to stakeholders? Was that a conscious process of, here, we're going to set aside this amount of time for conversation and planning? How did that go? And what can those of us who'd like to also implement some of these best practices for our students, how can we start thinking about getting stakeholders invested in the conversation and the planning?
Sure, that's a great consideration. I began with the administration in my building and was able to share with them what I had learned and what I felt was best practice for a mental health practitioner based on the NASP position statement and the AP position statement, and said that this was the recommended course of practice for educators and mental health specialists, and that I would be able to share this with the staff. I then went to a grade level meeting in order to meet with that particular grade level, at the time kindergarten, in order to introduce these ideas to them, not just to the teacher that had the student, but to the grade level as a whole, because they would all be interacting with the student at recess, in the hallway, covering classrooms. And I felt it was important for everyone to be knowledgeable on this topic. After talking with the grade level and the specific teacher individually, I then asked if it would be possible to have some time with the whole faculty at a faculty meeting in order to introduce some of these concepts, talk about terminology, and also again reinforce what culturally competent practice should look like in this educational environment. The administration was very amenable to that. They felt that it was a topic that a lot of people did not know much about specifically, and also come to the table with different feelings, either personally or professionally with, and that they felt it would be important for us to start a dialogue about what our professional responsibilities are, not only to this child, but to other children that might be out there. So after the faculty meeting, I then followed up, and of course this is taking place over the course of several months, but then I was able to have a meeting just with some of the additional staff in the school, including our paraprofessionals, the school security officer, things like that, other individuals that are important in the school that would be interacting with this child and maybe other children for consideration. And the big topic for us was looking at gender awareness, differences on the gender continuum, and focusing in a little more particularly with gender nonconforming behaviors, and things that are you tend to see in children at such a young age, that show gender expression, things like hairstyle, haircut, clothing, choice of toys, and choice of friends to play with. And I believe that our faculty had some varying ideas coming from this their own individual backgrounds on this topic, based on how they were raised, family values, religious differences, and it led to many meaningful conversations that took place over the course of several months, if not the entire school year, on what our role was, how to put aside any personal feelings or beliefs that individuals might have in order to fulfill our professional and ethical responsibilities, and be culturally competent in that way within this educational environment.
Sounds wonderful. And it sounds like all these steps that you have been taking have been so successful in creating this culture of inclusion and best practices and ethical supporting of students. How are you measuring, or how have you been able to, along the way, just for yourself, to measure the success of this entire project or plan?
Absolutely. That's a great question. You always want to think about the work that you're doing as a school psychologist and how effective are you? Are you reaching people? Do they understand what you're trying to share? Are they receptive to this information and carrying out in practice the ideas or material that you're sharing with them? One of the things that our principals have done was to indicate that if anyone would like more information on gender, or if issues or concerns had come up, to let them know or to let me know, and we would readdress it, which in fact was the case this year. Entering into this new school year in 2016, we felt that it was important to address another issue at a whole school faculty meeting, which was relating to gender neutral practices in the classroom, and how we can start as a whole school initiative to be more gender neutral, starting with something simple, just as lining up the children, rather than having a boys line and a girls line, but lining the children up in a more gender neutral way, which is really appropriate and best practice to begin with, but starting to have maybe lines based on tables, the red table line up and the yellow table line up, rather than always pointing out gender in the way that we address children. Also, how we address children at assemblies and cultural affairs presentations, rather than addressing the whole school as boys and girls, we'd like you to lower your voices. And we have started to address the children in a different way, such as learners, where we're looking for you to lower your voices, or second graders, or friends. So we're trying to think of small ways that we can be more gender neutral in the school. And one last thing that we talked about at the faculty meeting this year that came up, and the staff was asking questions about this and seeking more information out, was bathroom passes in the class. Sometimes an elementary school teacher might have a bathroom pass for boys and a bathroom pass for girls outlined in the classroom. And we'd like to move to a more gender neutral model. So the teachers brought this up. We addressed it at a faculty meeting and tossed a few ideas around for how the school in general can move in the coming months and into the next school year to be a little bit more gender neutral in our approach with this. So we've done that. And also the district asked me to do a presentation for the Greater Elementary School faculty for professional development for last year, which was on gender neutral practices in the elementary school classroom. And I thought that that was a great measure of success, that they feel that the faculty meetings had gone well within my own building. They'd like me to open it up to the other 4 elementary school buildings in the district. They took some survey results, which was wonderful after that. This was measured by the district. And then this year they asked me to do the same type of a faculty professional development workshop. So I'm very pleased. I've just submitted a presentation request for February of this school year, actually, right after this article, to present to the broader elementary school faculty on gender neutral practices in the elementary school classroom. And our district is going to be doing surveys afterwards to measure the effectiveness of the message, the effectiveness of the strategies, and figure out where we need to go forward from here in terms of additional professional development.
Wow, Amy, that sounds so powerful and positive. I love even just those concrete ideas that you shared. I think, addressing kids as learners and friends is so powerful in creating this concept of each other in a very positive, gender neutral way. I love that. And my very last question for you, you've answered so many of mine, because I see that this effort has led to your leadership role in other areas of best practices, just best practices in classroom management kinds of ideas, and so many of those practical ideas that you just discussed. And I also hear you saying that you're collecting this data to continue to support your intervention and the success of it, and also monitor how it's going. My last question, though, is: are you looking to find other sources of data, and are you planning on having this intervention idea expand your leadership role into other areas beyond those that you've mentioned?
Yes, thank you for asking, Rebecca. Right now, I've been working with my clinical supervisor to build my professional development plan around gender awareness. And we're planning some activities and read alouds in the classroom, or maybe the classrooms as a whole, particular grade level right now as a pilot, in order to see how we can integrate some more diversity awareness lessons into our classrooms. And we are going to be taking some data on that with some pre and post measures that the students are going to be completing, some surveys. And then we are hoping to go forward to maybe open that up to more classes in the grade level, to other grades, maybe to other elementary schools of the district. Of course, we want to pilot that at a smaller scale first within my own school building, but I'd like to be a part of moving forward what gender diversity curriculum and lesson plans might look like in the district. I know that our middle schools and our high schools are certainly doing a lot of great work around this, and I think if the elementary schools are able to be a part of this and introduce some of these concepts to children at a younger age, I think it will have a more positive impact on how children really understand some of these more challenging concepts that our society has struggled with for decades. And my hope is to be involved in that process with the district. So hopefully things go well with the next presentation that I have coming up this year, and the survey results faculty is looking for more in this area, and then hopefully we can move forward in a positive way.
It's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us and helping us, all of us out there. I know you've inspired me to start thinking about steps that we can take in our own buildings to create this culture of support and kindness and best practices for all of our kiddos. Thanks so much, Dr. Glazer, and good night, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.